Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jacob Restituto, and I'm a musician from Northport, New York, and I have the pleasure of having Justin and Slavo here from Fly by Midnight. Thank you so much for taking the time, guys, for coming on the channel, man.
Thanks for having us. Yeah,
Yeah,
of
it's my
course.
pleasure. It is my pleasure. And it's so for the people that haven't, who don't know who you guys are yet, or just kind of discovering you or new, can you give a little background on who you guys are, just a little bit of story?
Yeah,
Yeah, we're an indie pop duo based in LA now, but we're originally from New York, so big East Coast guys. I'm from Florida,
and I'm from Staten Island. Yeah,
and yeah, long story short, we met at a studio in Staten Island, and we've been making music since.
Oh,
yeah.
very
And then
cool.
we just moved out to LA. Come a little bit over a year now, right?
Like about a year and a half, yeah.
Yeah.
So you said you're from Staten Island. Is that the New York part?
Yeah. So that's Staten Island, like right outside of the city.
Yeah, yeah, of
Um,
course, yeah, sure.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, and we met in Staten Island in a studio over there. That was
Yeah,
kind of
we had a small little spot in like Tottenville area. We were there for like 4 or 5 years, and that was like the origins of Fly by Midnight.
yeah.
So where does that name come from for people that are haven't heard that story yet?
It's very anticlimactic. I wish we had like this like epic, larger than life story, but the truth is that when Slavo and I met, he was producing full time, and I was kind of working on a solo project, and we wrote a song together, and we decided like hell, we're gonna release it as a duo. And we were really excited about it, and we were ready to press the button to release it to the world, and realized we didn't have a name yet. And it was just like a very long week of throwing some very shitty names out, and and yeah, we kind of landed on Midnight. Also being like we work through hours of the night.
Hmm.
When we were in New York, we were pulling like 5 a.m.s all the time.
Hmm.
So it's very like integral to the Fly by Midnight DNA. And then where'd Fly by come from? Yeah,
Honestly, it was Fly by Night first, and we were doing like searches for it just to check and see it, socials, all that stuff, and we found out it was a popular Rush song. So we're like, man, how could we spice it up a little bit? And someone at the studio we were working out with, her name's Laura, she threw in like, oh, why not just call it Midnight? And we were like, well, that's kind of got a nice little cadence to it. So
yeah,
Yeah, I
ended
like
up-
it.
that was kind of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool and it's catchy and it's easy to remember, man. It's a lot easier to spell too than Jacob Restituto.
Thanks, man.
That's cool. So you guys have some new music coming up, right?
bunch, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've been really grateful throughout the pandemic, throughout these crazy past couple of years, just be able to release a ton of music. We right now we're releasing music every 3 to 4 weeks, which is exciting as an independent artist to be able to write something together, Slavo produce it, and then just release it to the world. It's a very one-to-one connection, and so yeah, there's a lot of new music coming. We're currently recording vocals for a song coming out 4 weeks from now ish, and then we're just releasing singles leading up to tour in September, and it's just a very exciting, very inspiring time for us to be able to just work on music and be able to release it to the world. Is there anything you'd add to that?
No, I know we have a collaboration coming out this week, and it's fun to do stuff like that because a lot of the times, it's a DJ collaboration, so most of the production work is not on me, or all of it is. So it's nice to be able to have a release where you can kind of take a back seat and
100%.
do some vocals but yeah, so we have that coming up, and a lot of cool random collaborations for this album, and yeah, we're excited.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just chatting with somebody else on an interview, and we were talking about like typically how when you are an artist that's established yourself and stuff, people are always reaching out to do collaborations. And one of the things I always say is like, if you want to collaborate, make it as easy as possible, because like so often artists are like, and this is kind of a different situation, but it is funny how it's like so often artists are like, oh, I'd love to collab, and then like they don't even have a DAW. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, or something like that. So when artists make it so easy, like you just said, like it makes it actually really enjoyable to collab with people when it's not all on you anymore.
100%. I mean, and even in retrospect, the collaborations we have done, we spoke in press a lot about receiving Clara May's vocal for our song "Lost Without You," and she's in Sweden, and she sent it to us, and we played that thing, and we were like, "Whoa, well, she just made our job quite easy,"
100%.
It kind of motivated us to re-record our vocal now to match hers. And yeah, it was cool. And with this DJ collaboration we have coming up this week, it's called Miyagi. It's with the DJ Buzzlow, and it's quite a similar situation. He's in the Netherlands. We'd never met him, and we had a demo that Slavo and I wrote. Geez, probably 3 years ago now, right?
It's been a minute, yeah. I think we wrote it on a writing trip actually out to LA though too, which is funny. There's this duo, Schmarks and Savvy, that we're pretty close friends with now since those couple sessions we had. But yeah, it's been a while. It's funny, we're seeing a lot of our songs these days are older ones that we're just giving new life, or they're just randomly, you know, getting love when we're pitching them, which is exciting because, you know, sometimes you think these songs are dead, and then randomly here you go, you have a fresh new song that we know is not very fresh.
Yeah. And it's almost, you kind of have to rewire your brain a little bit to like and not to go off on a tangent, but like, so the song we're currently tracking vocals for was another one we wrote 4 years ago, and we actually wrote it. We set up a camp after meeting with Def Jam Records at the time. We were like, hell, let's try to write for Bieber's next record. You know, let's try to kind of see, because we're also writers, you know, full time as well. And we wrote a song that kind of sat there, was supposed to be cut by a K-pop artist, was supposed to be cut by so many people. And quite recently we were listening to it and we were like, I think we should do it. And Slavo was the only one singing on it for 4 years of listening to it. So now even to put my vocal on it alongside him, it feels a little weird.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like you kind of need to rewire your brain when songs have been sitting on a hard drive for so long. Yeah.
For sure, absolutely. It's funny you say that. I've been coming across totally randomly this past week. Like, actually, I went to a little vacation in Aruba, and on the way home, I was just like feeling super inspired by music, but like I didn't bring my laptop, so I was just listening to like, you know, some of my old voice memos, and I was like going far back, and I'm like, shoot, man, this stuff was good. Whatever happened to it? You know what I mean? Like, it just kind of got forgotten and started working on new tracks and stuff. But I want to talk about the fact of you releasing a whole bunch of recent music. You know, I subscribe a lot to the way I release music. I release a lot of singles, and I like releasing a lot of music, and it kind of goes opposite, if anti, the way that the typical music industry works. And I want to hear your thoughts on that. I feel like a lot of artists are starting to lean into this, like, let's just release as much as we can kind of thing. Not to like be like, oh, let's just do it, but like we all write so much, and there's just so much that lives on the shelves. And I'd love to know your perspective on that. You know, like why you've been releasing every 3 or 4 weeks as opposed to doing some sort of just like, you know, 12-song, 15-song album.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how your knowledge of the industry, but we know singles are the best option for putting stuff out as far as visibility. So, I mean, that is an easy one for us, just getting singles out as many as we can. The fans are reacting to it when we first started it way better than we could have ever imagined. Our numbers are just doing, you know, healthy things. And I think for us, seeing that was just like, all right, so let's just keep doing this and rock and rolling and seeing where it takes us. And you know, watching Taylor Swift release 2 back-to-back albums of full songs, and then Ariana Grande has been killing it with dropping singles. And I think it's just like super inspiring that there was indie artists kind of already doing that, but now you see the mainstream artists doing it. So it's like, okay, so maybe this is actually doable. And the fact that we both are, everything we do is in-house.
Yeah.
We can, you know what I mean? So it's kind of a why not situation.
100%.
Slavo kind of just tapped into something too, where for this new album cycle we're currently rolling out, we've released consistent music, but we've never released at this cadence and like 3 weeks and shoot a video and do this and do that. But I think Slavo and my mentality coming into it was I remember we had quite a long conversation, like, what are our expectations here? You know, like, and I remember I was saying like, well, if each song creeps its way to 100,000 streams, I guess that's okay. And we've kind of far surpassed that with this project. And I think worst case scenario, we gave this a shot, and then the next cycle we were like, maybe we wait 6 weeks, you know? So I think being part of being an independent artist, and we love inspiring, you know, future independent artists, and it's really just giving things a shot, you know?
100%.
And it's much easier said than done. I think we're quite grateful to both of us because we kind of push a little bit more of that courage aspect in each other. Like, let's try this video that's a little bit left of center and it may not resonate, but screw it, let's go for it. And I think that's been a big epicenter of why Flyby, I mean, why we're able to live off of this shit right now. And why we have, it's because we're taking risks and hoping some of them pay off.
I think the exciting part too is that, you know, it's not like we have all these songs produced and ready to go. We're kind of picking them as we go, and we're still writing stuff every day. So it's even kind of fun for us to be like, all right, we like this song, let's work on it, do it, and we don't overthink stuff. We just kind of produce it, make it sound nice, and then push it along, and then move on to the next one. And I think that's really been inspiring, at least.
I agree.
Yeah, it's really interesting you say that, because like there was a time period where I was doing like a song a week kind of thing, and it's funny, or the pressure that you put on yourself, I feel like almost to some degree creates this enjoyment. It's like, I got to get this song done. It needs to be done. And now I had a backlog, so I was like, 6 weeks ahead or something like that. But it's like, now that I've stopped that, I'm like, oh, I'll get to that song when I get to it kind of thing. And it's like, there's this lack of inspiration almost. It's funny you say that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it also kind of feels, this is a very, like, I guess, analytical way to look at it. But if you're like a stream junkie, right, and you're kind of looking at your numbers, which I happen to look at quite often because I'm just kind of into that shit.
Yeah.
But it is cumulative at the end of the day, right? Like songs add up. If two songs, perform a little bit under, but together it's just like part of a long journey for us.
100%. You don't need one song to get 10 million streams. You need 10 songs to get 1 million streams. 100%. And it's the same money in your pocket. It's the same notoriety. Absolutely.
Exactly.
So you guys are completely independent at the moment? Have you always been?
Yep. Since our single When She's Dancing, we just got out of a EP deal with this label Snafu, and we decided to rock and roll with DistroKid.
Yeah. So we literally a lot of our earlier Fly By Midnight releases. I mean, we've always been independent minus that 1+1 EP we put out, but we've went from AWOL to 1RPM to all these different distributions, and we found our most success, with DistroKid, because DistroKid does nothing for you except put your music in the store. There's no expectations to not be met, and it puts the ball in our court, and we're able to, I could talk your ear off for this shit for hours, Jacob. So tell me to shut up,
bro. I love it. I'm the nitty gritty guy that like loves analytics, that loves marketing. Like, I'm the anti-musician that every musician's like, oh, I just play my guitar, bro. And like, but I'm like, no, man, I'm trying to figure out the keywords to match my song title with the keyword, man.
and for us, it's kind of, it's just like we've been told by the industry so much that, AWOL, X and Y, they need 6 weeks to communicate to Spotify, to this and that. And granted, full disclosure, we really don't have the plug. We wish we had the plug, just so we could say thank you when we're on a Spotify playlist or something. But the truth is, we put out a shit ton of music, and some is going to resonate with certain fans, others going to resonate with industry, and you're just planting seeds.
Yeah,
that is like what we're doing, but we are fully independent, to answer your question.
Absolutely. So funny you mentioned DistroKid, because I love DistroKid personally, and they are a wonderful sponsor of this channel. So if people would love to save 7% on their first year subscription to DistroKid, click the link below.
Hi, Philip, who's the CEO of DistroKid.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know them on that. I work with Daniel, if you guys know Daniel.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But that being said, it's funny you guys mentioned all that stuff. Certain songs resonating with other people, like certain people, because I posted a community thing on YouTube. Like you can put the community tab up there, and I was just like, let me see, like, what's your favorite song of mine? And it blew my mind, because it's like the songs some of the songs I hate. I'm like, this is the terrible production on this one. The vocals are terrible. It's too high. I should have recorded a whole step down, or whatever the case is. Like, some of those are some people's favorites, and it blows my mind, because like I like really subscribe to the mentality of like quality is subjective. You know what I mean? What I think is a good song, people don't think is a good song. What other people think is a wonderful song, I think is terrible. You know what I mean? And it's so fascinating. That's why I love the idea of putting out so much music, because like you said, industry person A might love this song, while industry person B might hate it, while Joe Schmo C might love it. You know what I mean? It's just, you never know. And if you only release one song, you're only going to hit that one person, kind of thing.
Well, that's the whole thing. And I think we learned that, and we're not anti-label necessarily. I think there's a time and place. And I think in the future, we can see ourselves aligning with the label again. But I think the small EP project we did was quite a great learning lesson, because there were budgets, we were able to, but there was a little bit more pressure on, these are the only 4 songs we're giving. So it does kind of make you overthink a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I'm not saying our creativeness wasn't stifled, and those songs we're grateful have done quite well. But it's a little bit of a different when you only know you got 4 bullets in the chamber, if it feels a little bit different than like right now we're writing. I mean, we're releasing music that's quite eclectic. You know, here's an up tempo. Here's something we kind of are inspired by this week. You know,
Yeah.
and I think when you're on a label, there's a little bit more pressure. There's just a little bit more pressure.
For sure.
I'm gonna say, going back to what you were just talking about too, our fans, like on YouTube, in the comments, on social media, and all that stuff. It's funny, they're like almost being a little too nice to us about each of our songs, because everyone, they're like, I don't know how they keep outdoing themselves. They're doing better and better every time. And while that's really nice to hear, we know what songs perform better than others. So I mean, like, it's, as them liking it and saying that we keep getting better is amazing. But
That's funny, actually.
For us, like, seeing how the songs perform based on people's reactions, like, we had a song, Diamond Eyes, that we thought was like the best thing since sliced bread. We thought it was really fresh for us, very new, very, very unique. But on Spotify, it's the worst performing song we've had in a while.
Yeah. And
Which,
yeah,
it's okay, that shit happens, you know. But it's like funny to see, you know, how fans react versus how the numbers are showing and how you actually feel about the song, and just like all that mixed together, and then you figure out what the next single is going to be, and the next one, and you try not to let all that get in the way. But
that was kind of it's such an interesting track for us, because that was the last song of our EP deal, and we were kind of like, you know, you hear from a lot of people, this is the one, like, and it's like you can't have that mentality, because it's funny, my roommate was literally just texting me saying Diamond Eyes is like the shit, man. And I'm like,
it's a cool track,
and I'm very proud of that song. It's just, and maybe it's a late bloomer, but it is just so funny.
That's true too. You never know. Absolutely.
You never know. Yeah.
But you were saying it's so funny. What? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you never know. And for us, it was kind of, to see that and to still see people commenting on how much they like it. It's hard to not look at metrics too.
Yeah.
It's just an interesting industry. Yeah.
I mean, in the YouTube world too, Justin kind of briefly touched on it before. The idea of us doing videos for each of the songs is super important for us too, because YouTube's been our platform since day one, really. And, you know, we're getting to the point where trying to keep up with ourselves, releasing so many singles and keeping the content fresh and trying to come up with new ideas. And our budgets are getting, you know, tighter and tighter because we keep releasing more and more music. That's a whole nother side of it too. And I mean, you're on YouTube as well, so you know, content with your videos and all that. It's hard to keep up with sometimes, man. And,
I'm sorry. My last note on that, and then I'll shut up. Is it's just cool with our fans too, because you know, I told Slavo the other day, I think the reason we're getting more social growth than we've ever seen before is people algorithmically are coming across so many different songs at different times now. So it's kind of like, I don't know, people are discovering a single from 4 singles ago when we're in promo mode for the new one, which it's just an interesting time.
100%. Like you said, that's a great point, because if you release one song every 2 years, right? Well, then that means like people love this one song, and then cool, but there's nothing else attached to it. They got to go 2 years back to hear the next thing. But like if you release, you know, say 15 songs a year, whatever the case is, you know, or even more than that, actually, you guys are on a roll to do probably like 25 songs this year or something like that, right? So like, if that's the case, like, there's so many options. So like they watch one video, the YouTube algorithm recommends next time they open up YouTube is another Fly by Midnight song. Next time they open is another new one. It's brilliant, man. I love it. I want to talk about the videos actually, because you mentioned that. And how important do you find are the music videos?
I mean, for us, we really enjoy doing them. I think it's a whole other creative part of our brain. Important, I think. For day one, stuff like that, getting the fans to realize that we even have a song out. I mean, like I said, our big platform is YouTube. It's been that for a while. So it's a big marketing asset for us, past just being creative and enjoying that side of it. It's the same thing with that though. Like some of our creative ideas are through the roof. Like this next one, we're doing some really cool shit. Who knows? The song could just be cool and people connect with it and they don't really give a fuck about the video. We had a song we talk about a lot, Love Me Like a Friend, where we came up with this idea overnight, went and shot it at our buddy's place for $100 because we wanted to throw him some cash, and shot it within like a few hours. We were playing video games in between it.
We were literally in between takes, going to the other room and just playing Call of Duty rounds and going back. It was the most lax video. And frankly, I'm the one who's always stressed about videos because Slavo was like cool as a cucumber. And this is like a fucking playground for me because it was Nice. And I'll let you kind of
Yeah, I mean,
that. Yeah.
long story short, the song ended up getting 1 million views like organically. We didn't put any ads into it or anything like that, and it was just wild because we were getting hit up by labels again, and we've been out, we've been a band for like 4 or 5 years. We're getting hit by management, labels, and stuff, and none of that ever panned out. But it's just funny to see that sometimes when you don't overthink the videos or the ones that, and like my point before, it could have just been the song connected with people, and that's where they listen to it. You know what I mean? They don't really even watch the video.
Yeah.
Who knows? But yeah, to answer your question.
No, sorry. Right. This is a great comment from one of the comments in the YouTube chat right now. They said that YouTube's becoming the new A&R. They're pitching your songs for you. You just, as long as you release the songs, they're pitching them out in there. It's pretty amazing.
And that's why, like, we were talking about, like, diversification of music and getting a ton of music. Shooting the visual component is like a whole nother seed, because sometimes the song may not resonate well, but the video has an X factor, and that's kind of, and we really explored that, and I think in retrospect, there's some videos, like Slavo said, Love Me Like a Friend, that resonated. We don't know why it resonated, but but it did. And then there's other videos that we've went all out for that maybe didn't resonate as well, and but it's been an interesting journey because we've had well over 10 videos that have put songs on the map in a lot of ways, and so it's a very, and Slavo and I direct all of our videos. Slavo edits them. We bring in normally a DP, sometimes a gaffer as well, and it's like, it's a great palate cleanser for us when we're studio rats, to get out and bring these songs to life in a different way. Yeah.
For sure, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned management and labels reaching out after that song did really well. Are you guys managed at the moment, or are you guys doing everything independent?
We actually recently just started working with a Mantis group, and this guy Matt Hines over there, and someone we've been kind of talking back and forth with for a few months. And we did the non-management thing for basically this whole year since 2021 started.
Yeah. And
I think we just got to a point where we were like, all right, we've done this for a little while now, and we want to get back into bed with someone. So
yeah, and there's just we've noticed that there's so much on the plate that it's inevitable that things are slipping through the cracks now, which is a cool problem to have. But yeah, going back to being managed is something relatively new for us. We had a homie managing us for several years, and amicably split and all love and everything. But yeah, it's an interesting journey.
Yeah.
With that.
So for somebody that's experienced both, having a friend manage you and then having a professional manage you, what would you say are some pros and cons to both of those?
I think and that's a great question. I think this time going into the ring, at least for me, I think it's very important. This is a great way to put it. I think there are so many different sort of managers out there, and we're learning as we're evolving as artists the kind of manager that we want. I think a lot of managers actually just manage what you're bringing in. They're able to balance it for you, but we're kind of capable of doing that up to a point. And I think we've grown to a place that now with a professional of sorts, it's just a bigger resource pool, just someone that can leverage the success that we're creating and bring in more opportunity. But for a lot of people, and for us for a long time with our friend, it was really just like kind of the stuff that we were bringing in, conversing and making sure everything was running smooth per se. But I think now at the place we are in our career, we're stoked to be aligning with people that, can level up kind of what we're already doing. Did that say that right?
Yeah, no, I mean, just to touch on it too, I mean, the whole friend thing, Will is definitely our old manager. He has tour experience and stuff like that. So he's definitely been a part of the industry. The friend aspect of it comes in, I think when we first started, we were kind of doing our thing and not really thinking about that whole side of it. So we were super unorganized. Will was someone who just kind of ended up in our music world, and the manager thing wasn't even an option. So the friend aspect of it, he was just kind of someone that we were homies with through music because of whatever reason, and brought him on. And he was super influential to like how we got organized. We started an LLC, like all the business shit we didn't really care about doing, at least.
Super important stuff too.
Yeah, we were super green.
You saved so much money on taxes doing this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
He hooked us up with the lawyer, stuff that we, you know, we signed contracts before where we just had like some random lawyer look at stuff, and stuff that we were super green to. I mean, at least I know I had never really had to deal with anything like that. So I think now that we've gotten to a certain point and we have gone through, you know, different situations where we've learned a lot of shit, you know, doing what we do, and finding someone that makes sense for where we're at was super important. And I think that, you know, we found that. So,
and I think that's, for us, it's across the board. It's, I think it, on our trajectory, we've needed different team members to do different things. And it goes back to the label discussion too. Like, I think there will be a time where we will align with the label again, but we'll be looking for a very specific thing that makes sense for us in that moment. And right now, the management that we brought on makes a lot of sense for us where we are right now. Maybe it wouldn't even made sense 3 years ago, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's there's a time and place for everything kind of thing, you know. It's super fascinating. Another question from the chat actually is, you mentioned some collabs that you guys have been doing lately. What is the dream collab for Fly By Midnight?
oh man, I feel like there's so many.
I hear that. Name three, if you can name three.
We're huge 1975 fans.
Oh gosh, top! They're like tied for the top. My favorite band, 100%.
Actually, they do that because he works with No Romano. But anyways, I don't think. Oh, we never know. That would be one of them, I think.
Yeah, for me, I'm like, my mind always goes to more like writer collaborations. Like, I'd love to be in a room writing with John Bellion. I think
another New Yorker.
Yeah, Long Island.
Yeah, that's where I'm from.
Yeah. And in 1975, I also feel like we love, you know, we love going quite nostalgic too, and it would be a dream to once again write. I don't know about artist collaboration, but be in the room with like a Paul McCartney or Daryl Hall and these sort of very influential. But what's another artist? I feel like,
I mean, Julian Michaels, you know, is someone that I think is super narrative in their writing, and I think we tend to do that a lot. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, she's obviously incredible, and being that she has an artist project is kind of a double whammy. So, that'd be nice to work with her for sure.
Yeah. It's fascinating to see how many. So, I've been chatting with a lot of different writers on the channel too, and it's fascinating to see how much love John Bellion gets as a writer. And like, if you're in the industry, you know how much of an influence he is, but like, it's funny, I feel like he doesn't get the cred that he, you know, really deserves. Like, he's written some huge songs, and like, people don't really know that, or they just know him from like All Time Low, you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's wild, like, it's the behind the scenes aspect of like what this guy's doing. So it's funny that you mentioned him, and there's been a couple people that have mentioned him.
It kind of blows my mind too. I can't think of an artist that I came across growing up and like before my eyes watched evolve besides John Bellion. Like, that was, I very much remember when Slave and I started Fly By Midnight, that on his website you could click on it and you would get a free download, and it would go to a zip file on your desktop of the whole album. And it was a very big, like, I'm just giving music away for free. And at the time, that wasn't like, he very much pioneered that in a mainstream way. And for us early on, we were like, look at this guy's videos. They're weird as shit. And he's doing some weird stuff. And then you hear like, and you're right. And now he's writing on some crazy projects. I mean, we're huge fans of the new Bieber record. But
yeah, he wrote like 85% of the Bieber record.
And it sounds like a John Bellion record.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's so cool. And we caught him, my ex, she didn't buy your tickets, right? No, she just bought my ticket.
I took Legati's tickets.
Yeah. We caught John Bellion years and years ago at Irving Plaza. And I think he was, I forget what album cycle he was, maybe his second album. And even the progression of that, you know, like, he's like a force to be reckoned with, 100%.
But it's funny, it's like almost like a silent force to some degree. Like, industry people know how like big integral he is, but like, people don't necessarily recognize it, which is wild. You know, the people that need to know, and the people that don't, just, it's kind of funny, you know. But
I was gonna say, I mean, that's a whole other side of what we do. But I'm a producer, and we're both songwriters for other projects. Pretty consistent, you know. We try to balance it, you know, with what we got going on with Fly By Midnight. But the coolest part with his story right now is that I could see us trying to do that, you know, in the next 10 years, where he's done his whole project thing. He's excited. Maybe he wants to take a break and explore creativity with other artists. And he's just kind of fell off the map with his own project. but I'm sure he'll come back out of nowhere and come in with some really crazy shit. But I mean, it's cool that he can do that. You know what I mean? It's like people are still waiting for him, and they're seeing that he's doing stuff on the back end. He's creating a whole other story to his music career. And
yeah, and I was even going to say, of course, nowhere near the level of Bieber cuts, but you know, even Flyby fans, I don't think they realize how many songs we've written and Slavo's produced for artists not only in the States but overseas. You know, in Sweden, Norway. Like it's definitely a whole nother thing that yeah, we don't really flaunt as much either. So I guess maybe I understand John just kind of just doing the shit.
Yeah,
You know?
he doesn't. You're right. You wouldn't know unless you kind of looked it up.
Yeah.
He's not flaunting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, continuing into that though. So, how do you find the balance of you know writing your own stuff versus like working on Fly by Midnight stuff and working on like you know production for a track or you know?
we kind of, I mean, we have a calendar that's booked out for probably what 3 months, 2-3 months ahead of time. And I think it's just being communicative and knowing what sessions we have coming up, what we need to get done, what's more time sensitive, which I think is a big part of why bringing a manager back on is exciting for us, because Justin takes on a lot of those roles all the time. I mean, I'll be deep in productions for a while after we write songs and stuff, and he'll go in and, you know, he has to step the creative side, step aside from the creative. And I think, you know, having someone to take on the managerial role and be more organized and help us figure out that side, it's going to be cool because, you know, Justin can get more involved, you know, not having to worry about the manager side of shit.
Yeah.
And which is, I think you like doing it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's all a balance, you know, but what I was going to say was we had a very interesting, we spoke about this before, but we had, I think it was our first trip out to LA when we were still living in Staten Island and still in the studio, but we had a trip out to LA where I guess it was our first taste writing for Flyby, but also writing for other people. And I look back as that was probably the most stressful time in Slavo my career because we were unsure what we were balancing.
Yeah.
And I think tension was a little high with us, even for like maybe 2 to 3 months, because we were suddenly being asked to do songs for other people. That was quite exciting, but we also didn't want to lose our own momentum.
Sure.
And I think we honestly came out on the other side of that, learning that they both work in tandem a lot more than we realized. And I think that was I think that was a super pivotal moment for us as Fly by Midnight, because we were like, whoa, we just wrote a single for X and Y. Now they're featuring actually on a Flyby song coming out, and now we're working on her record. And it really came full circle. And but that was you asking that question. It was definitely a learning curve, and one that I feel like we have a really good grasp on after kind of not for a minute. Yeah.
That is really fascinating, man, that you say it like that, with the whole, you know, they kind of work in tandem. And like you said, like, you know, you spend, you know, whatever, a week in a writing session with an artist that necessarily isn't that benefiting, you know, Fly by Midnight right up front, but then a month later that artist is now featuring on Fly by Midnight. That's really interesting. Or she introduces you to so and so, who introduces you to so and so. Now you have them on a Fly by Midnight track. That's really interesting. You know, it's kind of just a broad spectrum of your career rather than just all these segments.
I'm probably taking the words right out of your mouth, but the best example of this that comes to mind is now a best friend of ours and a best friend of our girlfriend, wife, is Jake Miller. And he, you know, to make a very long story short, we landed in LA, got off a flight on our second writing trip, and I said to Slavo, we're going to write with some famous people on this trip. And as soon as I landed, I got an email from Jake saying, hey, heard your music, dude. I want to come to the studio this week. Got in with him, wrote 2 songs for his record, homied out with him, had him feature on a song of ours, Automatic, that has very much changed our career trajectory in a lot of ways. And now we're going on tour with him.
Wow.
So it's like, to me, that's like the full circle of like, we came in there as writers, producer, then kind of left with everything, you know?
Yeah, I think it's an investment, right? I mean, a lot of these things that, not to think of it as like a business situation, but a lot of these artists that we meet and we work with, it sometimes doesn't pan out the same way. You know what I mean? Jake, you know, even Betty Who, these are friends of ours now, but that was stuff that, you know, who would have thought that we would have had songs as successful as they are now working with them back in the day. So it's just funny to, you know, hand in hand, it's a business thing, but also a friendship. And I think it's super rewarding when you see these things pan out, you know, years later, and you could kind of talk about it. Like every time we get in a session with Betty, we're like, I don't think you realize how much of a fan we were of you.
Nah.
And still you.
Yeah.
When her album, Take Me Home, right? Take Me Home.
Mm-hmm.
That was like the early flyby shit, man. Like we used to sit and listen to that album and like dissect how they produce it and stuff. And we just thought it was so cool. And we were doing super like retro 80s stuff. And
Yeah, Slavo completely says it right, that when we continue to talk to her and hang out right with her, and she's so excited to work together, it feels very weird.
Yeah, I believe it.
It's an odd thing. And like we've been so grateful to work with artists from all over. You know, we had an artist, Julie Bergen, who's on Warner in Norway. We had cold pitched a song that she ended up cutting for her record, and then the label sent her out to spend a week with us in New York. And like that relationship, even though we're across, you know, the world, has brought so many opportunities.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it just goes back to planting the seed, you know.
And it's funny too, just one more little note on that, like, you know, the whole manifesting your dreams thing, and like you trying to see where, you know, you could take yourself level up. I sit down sometimes while I'm producing, and I think like, you know, will I ever work with the Jonas Brothers? Will I ever work with Charlie Puth? Will we ever like do these, you know, higher tier sessions? And I think about these situations with Betty and Jake and just people that we're friends with now. And I'm like, hey man, like if it took us 3 years to build a relationship like that with them, you know, there's no reason why we can't be friends with Charlie Puth.
Amen to that, man. Amen to that. You know,
it's like, it's not something that we need, but it's something that we think would be really cool and exciting, sure. You know, and it's just funny because it's corny to say and cliche, but anything's possible.
Yep.
You know what? And after you've seen kind of the fruit of some things being possible, it's a lot easier to say that statement. You know, on a different level, I relate to that. You know what I mean? Like where it's like, you say it for years while nothing's happening, kind of thing, and then one thing the ball is rolling, it's like, oh, that statement's actually true, kind of thing. So all these other things that you've been hoping for and working towards, like, seem even that much more attainable, kind of thing. But the last, I want to be respectful of your time, and I want to thank you first of all for coming on. But the last question I have for you guys is, you mentioned like all these collaborations that you've done. You mentioned, you know, working with these artists, these writing sessions, and you know the writing session with Jake Miller, and how you just got that email. One of the caveats of these conversations that I like having is like inspiring other artists that are starting up, or like, you know, I really am passionate about, you know, paving a way for other artists and showing them, hey, this is documenting my journey so that they can kind of take little ideas from me and do their own journey, kind of thing. And one of the things I've found is all these kind of like quote unquote scammy things that we get pitched to as musicians. And I'm curious how you navigated, you know, an email that is like legitimately from Jake Miller that actually works out, to like some other like, hey, we'd love to work with you kind of thing. Meanwhile, it's just like nothing ever pans out, or it's a scam where they're trying to rip you off. How did you guys personally navigate that stuff?
It's another super great question.
Yeah, I'd say we probably get, more DMs, you know, just younger up and comings trying to work together.
I think early on, we never really had enough money to throw at a stupid scam marketing company, you know, like I had enough money to make those poor decisions. Mm-hmm. So I think that was half of the luck in that. And
that's funny.
I think as artists, you're always looking for a little bit of a shortcut. And I think we really try to keep each other in check to not look for that anymore, you know, and understand the slow burn that kind of comes with it. Because I think a lot of these shortcuts, we have very early label discussions, and in retrospect, there's some labels that have folded since we had those discussions. There's A&Rs that were wildly influential at these labels that are no longer there, and we still would have been in that deal. So I think looking back on stuff like that, everything happens for a reason, and there's no reason to rush into anything. And quality is it.
Yeah, I would say that, you know, just having each other to communicate on these things and speak about it and see what makes sense for us. And we have conversations all the time about different opportunities that come across our plate. And for anyone out there who's doing a solo project, I would just say find a team that you trust and you can bounce ideas off of and kind of filter those things through, because there's a lot of stuff out there that you can kind of get yourself into that you're not too happy with. And I don't think we've come across a lot of stuff like that.
No, I don't think I agree. And you know, Slavo's always preaching that in these sort of like speaking to independent artists of the future. And I 100% agree that I think camaraderie and community and team. I love the story of Brockhampton, how they met on a Reddit forum. I think that's so this industry, you know, surround yourself with people making cool shit and homies. This is a last little bit, but the past couple of days we've been communicating with an artist that reached out to us and said, hey, you know, I really don't like this other artist you're supporting. And it was just like a very weird, toxic conversation. I've never had this in my entire life. But I was preaching to him. It sounded very hippie, but I was like, man, you got to love everyone. You never know who's going to cross your path and whatever. And I think community is a number one thing artists on the come up should be looking for. Yeah.
Absolutely. Every single conversation that I've had on these chats and interviews, relationships is the number one. Like, it all comes down to relationships, keeping good relationships, being a good person, like you said, like, you know, loving everybody. It's absolutely true, man.
Making dope shit helps too, but
well, of course, absolutely. But that's even subjective, because like, how often do like people release stuff that's like not that great, but because they know the right people is doing well?
It's true, very true. It's half the battle.
100%, absolutely. But I want to thank you guys so much for taking the time. Your links to your music and your Instagram is already in the bio. But how else can people support you and what you're up to these days? And then we'll cut it.
We're going on tour. Come check us out on tour.
Yeah,
you said September, right? The fall?
Yeah, September 14th.
Yep.
Through November.
Yeah, we're doing 33 cities
Nice.
throughout the state, and yeah, we have like a really cool, before our sound check, we're doing like a VIP acoustic pop-up show, and it's gonna be really fun. It's gonna be 1-to-1, very intimate. And
you guys coming to New York?
Yeah, we're playing LPR.
We're doing Jersey and New York too. I think we're doing I play
in Jersey as well. Yeah.
I gotta come out.
Let's kick it, man. But yeah, and then just fly by midnight on everything, and we love communicating, DMing with our fans. So for any new people checking us out, let us know what you think about the music.
Beautiful. Well, thank you guys so much. If you guys just hang up for 2 seconds, I want to thank everybody for watching this video. Definitely go check out their stuff. The links are in the bio. The best way to support them is through their music. The best way to support this channel is checking out my music, and I will